working more with than others, and why? You may not know the answer to that question, but through observation, through formal and informal interview, you might find out why some teachers focus on certain group of students, whereas another group, he or she doesn't really pay much attention to. Why? It could be because the students require, undivided attention. Or there could be biases. Some male teachers focus on male students without even realizing it. And whereas the female students are being silenced, are not, we do not receive the attention that they deserve because we are biased in some way, right? So this is why we have to make sure that we are not, we keep and check our biases. Now, as a researcher, you're gonna look for information that will serve the purpose of your research. Because there is no way you're gonna try to cover everything that's happening in the classroom. So you need to be selective. What do you include in your field notes? And why? So that's gonna be determined by the purpose, by the goal of your research. What exactly you're looking for. Some people, when they are doing classroom research, they focus on the teachers. They don't focus on the students. Some people do both. So if your goal is to see how Miss Maria interacts with English language learners, for example, and to what extent her interaction impacts positively or negatively the learning of English language learners, then you're going to focus on Miss Maria and the student who are interacting with her. So it all depends on what goal you set for yourself. So purpose and goal are important. And the research questions obviously need to be linked to your purpose. Everything needs to be connected. It cannot be disconnected. Otherwise, people who are reading your research will have a lot of questions for you.
Before I go any further, so when I was reading this and I got to epistemology, now you're talking about it as a philosophical belief system. All this says, both here and in the glossary, is that it's a philosophical belief system about who can be a knower. I don't understand what that means.
Okay. Epistemology, let me just ask a question, then you will make sense. How do I know what I think I know? That is a very epistemological question. Epistemology is about who's the knower and who defines who's the knower. And who's the one pouring knowledge into somebody else's brain, and who's the one with the knowledge. Has a lot to do with epistemology, right? If you believe that knowledge is something that is constructed through interaction with people, then that would be a different type of epistemology. Now, if you believe that knowledge is something that is already there, that you have to just look for it, that would be a different epistemology. Now, if you believe that knowledge is co-constructed with people through social interactions, then you reject the positive approach of knowledge. Does that make sense?
Right. So, but I want to try to operationalize it, like put it in context. So,
yeah.
I think two kinds of maybe classrooms where one, the teacher does all the talking and does all of gives all the information, and the other lets the student construct the knowledge. Then that would be two different epistemological beliefs, because in one the students are the knowers and the other the teachers are the knowers?
Yeah, so you get it. For example, there are teachers who simply lecture. They don't really try to involve students, okay? Because they believe I'm the one with knowledge, you listen, you take notes, whatever I say. But I'm not really involving you in the process. So you and I are not constructing knowledge. I'm pouring my knowledge into your brain, into your head. Because I believe I am the one who's knowledgeable, and you are not.
And so if you took that approach, then you would be a positivist?
Yes, indeed. And if you believe that knowledge is co-constructed, then you would be a very good friend of Vygotsky, who believes that knowledge is co-constructed. It's not something that happens in a vacuum. It's happening among human beings through social interaction. So this is why you have to know what is your epistemology when you are doing your research. So if you think that research needs to be done with, not on people, then you're gonna make sure that your participants are taking active role in your research. You're not just gonna go there and tell them what they should be doing. In fact, they should be the one telling what you should be doing, because you're not part of their community. You don't really know what they expect on a daily basis. So if you really want to know how they live their life, and you have that epistemology that informs your approach, then you're going to create space for them to speak. Okay? You're not just going to go there and start lecturing them, right? So you're going to create space for them to tell you their stories. They will be the expert, not you. But if you are coming from a positivist approach, then you're going to see yourself as the expert. You're going to go into their community and tell them what to do, right? You're not going to create space for them to tell you their stories, what's been happening in their own communities. This is why I am a firm believer. This is me, okay? I do not completely reject the positivist approach, which goes back to Auguste Comte. Auguste Comte was a French sociologist who came up, who was a pioneer of that thought, the school of thought. So he believes that everything has to be scientifically based. If I cannot prove something, therefore I shouldn't do anything. If something cannot be proven, cannot be measured, therefore I should not trust it. I mean, how do you explain the fact that in my own community, for example, I'm referring to, I'm not going to say voodoo, the way voodoo has been constructed in the mainstream media, people with spiritual force, right? They can take, for example, a piece of wood and stick it into the ground, and 2 or 3 people cannot even take it out. And how do you explain this? Now, how do you explain people step on fire and they don't get burned? So, because they don't get burned, therefore I shouldn't trust it. And you're gonna wonder, how does that happen? It's not possible. That cannot be proven. I mean, I witnessed it. People would set on fires. I mean, would actually, lighten a piece of wood and put it in the mouth, and they would not even get hurt, get burned. And how do you explain this? How do you explain that? Now, you're gonna say, well, it's not scientific, because if you do this, you add it to that, therefore you get that result, right? I have to see the pattern. I have to be able to predict it. Well, there are things that cannot predict. There are things that cannot be proven scientifically, but they're happening. I mean, like I said, I witnessed a voodoo ceremony about 4 months ago when I was in August. There's a guy who took out, a piece of wood that was, that was on fire, and he swallowed it, so to speak. And the guy was not burned. And I said to myself, how did that happen? Was that an illusion? Maybe I need glasses or something. I mean, these are the things that are happening in some communities. And because we are so positivist in our mind, we think everything has to be proven, everything has to be measured. Not everything has to be measured. This is why I partially reject the positive approach, because it doesn't really create space for human interaction. That doesn't exist really. It's all about numbers. It's about measuring what is measurable, proving what can be proven. Does that make sense? So, but if I am coming from a different type of epistemology, that is, I'm not the knower. I'm not the one with the knowledge. I'm gonna go there and do that ceremony and learn from people. They're gonna tell me about the spiritual forces, that they have inherited from their ancestors. The prayer that they tell before they do certain things. I'm going to learn from them. I'm not going to go there because I cannot make sense of it, therefore I completely reject the knowledge that they have. This is a type of knowledge. For someone to do something like that, that's a type of knowledge that I don't have access to. You see? But if I am coming from a very positivist mindset, then I won't believe what I saw. And I will completely reject it because I cannot prove it myself. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? So epistemology plays a very important role in terms of how you perceive the reality. The reality is, the social reality that we call it, is not something that is there. It's something that is constructed by human beings through social interaction. That's my take on it. I mean, people who are so science-driven would say, no, that's not true, right? But I do believe what we call reality is not something that is touchable, that is measurable, that can be proven. It's something that is evolving constantly, and that is constructed by people through social interactions. Does that make sense? Yes?
Okay, we have this idea like positivist or another thing, we have this epistemology, but can we bring it before we start our research, or our research shape it? Which one? Like, is it our
Could you
personal,
rephrase?
is it our personal belief? We believe that I'm a positivist, I'm gonna look at from this perspective to this research question, or our research question shapes it?
That's a very good question. I mean, you can do mixed method. This is why I said I do not completely reject quantitative, method, because I think it can be useful, and it has been useful. It all depends what you want to do. You can do mixed method. You combine the two. If you want to do survey is not really part of qualitative research. You can do survey. That's part of quantitative, method. Yes.
Wait. Why aren't surveys part of qualitative research?
Well, some people actually no. We have people who do qualitative research have used surveys, but surveys historically has been used has been used through a quantitative paradigm. But people have used both quantitative and qualitative methods in the research. I've done the same. I've done surveys, because I think surveys can be revealing. It depends on how you do it and what do you have in mind. Yes, sir.
So if I do a survey type of research, does it belongs to the quantitative or qualitative paradigm?
It's my understanding you will fall under quantitative.
Quantitative.
Yeah, because there is no interaction involved. It's something you just pass something to somebody write something. And you don't even know there's no way. It's not something that you construct with someone. And you just
What do you quantify? What do you quantify it? So if somebody's writing something, are you then putting them in a category and therefore?
Yeah.
I guess if somebody's.
Why do you quantify it?
You could make a mixture of it. Do you feel strongly about this, less strongly about this,
Yeah.
neutral about this?
That's a likely
That's the quantitative part. And then you have the comment
And
section.
the number,
The
They say,
numbers.
Now, what do you really feel about this? There's your qualitative part of it.
And the number, how many people answer question number 5? How many yes or no you have?
Yeah,
That's the number.
that's your
Yeah,
quantitative.
it depends how you approach it.
But
But,
if
but
you
then
have,
somebody has to interpret those comments and find out the real truth.
Yeah. Surveys have been used for both.
yeah, what about
For
you
both
have,
quantitative and qualitative, but historically it has been perceived as a qualitative,
I think it depends
method.
on the format of the
The
survey.
format, how you
yeah.
design it.
How about you have for open questions in the survey?
Yeah.
In the survey paper, right?
Yeah.
The,
So again?
the open questions.
Open questions.
The
Yeah.
open-ended questions
Yeah.
should be classified as the qualitative.
Qualitative.
But remember, survey, you don't necessarily have to be in physical contact with someone to do the survey. You can send a survey through Facebook. You don't even see the people who are filling out filling out the questions. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It all depends how you design it and how it's done. But like I said, historically, it can be used in both qualitative and quantitative. It depends on how you design the survey and what the goals are. Does that make sense? Because if you, let's say you have, the survey may have let's say 5 questions in the survey, okay? Now, you want to know how many people here at MSU drank on the weekend, students who drank on the weekend. And does that make sense? Okay, that's one of the questions. And I can give you the survey, you go to the schools, anywhere, and you just pass them around to people. And the answer, okay, I do, exit I do, or Y said I don't. I don't need to be in touch with the people that you're gonna give the survey to. I'm just gonna go by the number. So that will be quantitative in nature. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. This is why historically the survey has been perceived as a quantitative tool type of method. But it depends on how you design it. I did surveys when I was doing my research, but I didn't really rely on them that much. Because I do believe in being in the classroom, seeing how people are interacting, talking to the teacher, and get their voice in there. you know? Because when you serve, you don't know if the person is telling the truth or not. I mean, the person can make up anything. Because all you are interested in is the number. How many people will do this with what? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, I said your research questions need to be linked to your purpose, and your research question will tell you how you should approach the data you're going to collect, right? The data you're going to collect. And is everyone clear on epistemology and methodology, the difference? Okay. In ontology, again, it's in epistemology, those two go hand in hand. Okay, remember, they are all intertwined. You cannot separate them because they're intertwined, they inform each other, right? For my conceptual framework, in one of my studies, I use critical race theory. Right? Critical race theory, that's one methodology that I use. I mean, what's a methodology? You think about a conceptual framework, right? That's basically what it is. It informs how you see the data. And, if I, for example, I use critical race theory as a methodology, then I'm going to look at how race plays a part in student learning, for example. How race plays a very important role in student learning. Now, I can also use a feminist Chicana approach, right? So this will enable me to see how Latina women do well in school. So your methodology really informs how you're gonna look at the data, how you're gonna listen to the data, right? So this is why they all intertwine. They all intertwine. So your research questions your data need to have